And we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Renee and Jonty, and Phil Tamlin, and Petit Bois, Chris Henry. Good evening, all. All questions are welcome here. Is it about my 1950s, my 1953 Tottenham Hotspur retro kit, which the top button just fell off of? This is Rita's worst outfit for me. We have 1 minute to go. Welcome to day 19 of the of the Bible Hour. What do we learn about Jesus in the Word of God? There were 12 tribes around the account, and the Levites in the middle were the Levites. 13 tribes. Ooh. Right. When will you get that answer? So you're gonna get that answer. That answer gets repeated a few times. So just hang on in there. Hang on in there. No spoilers. Park that question. That wasn't a stupid question, though. This is a 1953 Tottenham Hotspur retro football kit. Repulsive to some, glorious to others. But we're here to read the word of the living God, at least a dynamic equivalent of the word of the living God, because the word of the living God was in Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew. I would not recommend the New Living Translation if you're going to do robust exegetical preaching from the text. I would recommend it to get a feel of what the themes are in the Bible, and especially if you know where it sort of guffs up along the way. Better to read 100% of the New Living Translation than 0% of a more accurate English translation. And if you want to know what the most accurate translation of the Word of God in English is, I did a 3-hour technical podcast on that a couple of years ago with a language expert and biblical scholar. I've not broken out of prison, Rachel Freeman. Thank you very much. I have not even heard of the Tree of Life version. But there are some churches in South Wales that won't read any English Bible except for one. And they claim that it's the most accurate, and therefore others are, apostate versions. It's just emphatically false to claim that one English version of the Bible is the most accurate all of the way through. For many years, people believe that to be the King James. They don't believe that anymore. And the King James really drops the ball in places like Romans 6, where it does not get the aorist tense right of the Greek at all. But it's good in other places. Messianic Jews are using the Tree of Life version. Wow, interesting. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome if you are new. We post links down the bottom as to why we ask these questions. Numbers chapter 12. Are you racist? And if you are you allowed to be racist in the life of the church? This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The complaints of Miriam and Aaron. While they were at Hazeroth, Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses because he had married a Cushite woman. Cushites, by the way, were Egyptian and probably black. They said, Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Hasn't he spoken through us too? But the Lord heard them. Now Moses was very humble, more humble than any other person on the earth. Numbers 12:3, one of the best verses in the Bible because Moses wrote it. So immediately the Lord called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam and said, "Go out to the tabernacle, all three of you." So the three of them went to the tabernacle. So basically the idea is Miriam's like, there's no way God would ever also reveal himself to Cushites, probably because they're not pure thoroughbred Jews, probably because they look different. All of that's involved. It's an ancient problem as well as a modern one. Then the Lord descended in the pillar of cloud and stood in the entrance of the tabernacle. Aaron and Miriam, he called, and they stepped forward. And the Lord said to them, "Now listen to what I say. If there were prophets among you, I, the Lord, would reveal myself in visions. I would speak to them in dreams, but not with my servant Moses. Of all my house, he is the one I trust. I speak to him face to face, clearly, and not in riddles. He sees the Lord as he is. So why were you not afraid to criticize my servant Moses?" The Lord was very angry with them, and he departed. As the cloud moved from above the tabernacle, there stood Miriam. Her skin was as white as snow from leprosy. When Aaron saw what had happened to her, he cried out to Moses, "Oh, my master, please don't punish us for this sin that we have so foolishly committed. Don't let her be like a stillborn baby, already decayed at birth." So Moses cried out to the Lord, "Oh God, I beg you, please heal her." But the Lord said to Moses, "If her father has done nothing more than spit in her face, wouldn't she be defiled for 7 days? So keep her outside the camp for 7 days, and after that she may be accepted back." So Miriam was kept outside the camp for 7 days, and the people waited until she was brought back before they traveled again. Then they left Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. Good evening, Chris Williams. And Cara, no doubt. Good evening to Neil. And any other Whittingtons joining? Probably Sam. So Miriam was a bit anti-black there, and so God turned her flaky white. Numbers chapter 13. Now this is a big one. Key text in the life of the church. Note the buts, but we can't, but I can't trust the Lord, but because. 12 scouts explore Canaan. The Lord now said to Moses, "Send out men to explore the land of Canaan, the land I am giving to the Israelites. Send one leader from each of the 12 ancestral tribes." So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. He sent out 12 men, all tribal leaders of Israel, from their camp in the wilderness of Paran. These were the tribes and the names of their leaders. So now they are appearing in to the world to come, the promised land. Tribe: Reuben, Shammua, son of Zakur, that's the leader. Simeon tribe: Shaphat, son of Hori. Judah, the leader, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. Remember Caleb, legend. Issachar, leader, Igal, son of Joseph. Ephraim, leader, Hoshea, son of Nun. Tribe Benjamin, leader, Palti, son of Raphu. Zebulun, the leader, Gaddiel, son of Sodi. Tribe Manasseh, son of Joseph. Gadi, son of Suzi. Dan, Amiel, son of Gamali. Asher, Sethu, son of Mikael. Naphtali, Nahibi, son of Vophsi. And the tribe of Gad, Geuel, son of Maki. These are the names of the men Moses sent out to explore the land. Moses called Hoshea, son of Nun, by the name Joshua. So Joshua, he's been reappearing. He's now in this camp as well, this party. Moses gave the men these instructions as he sent them out to explore the land. Go north through the Negev into the hill country, see what the land is like, and find out whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. See what kind of land they live in. Is it good or bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Do your best to bring back samples of the crops you see. It happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob near Labo Hamath. Going north, they passed through the Negev and arrived at Hebron, where Ahaman, Sheshi, and Talmai, all descendants of Anak, lived. The ancient town of Hebron was founded 7 years before the Egyptian city of Zoan, if you wanted to know. When they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes so large that it took 2 of them to carry it on a pole between them. They also brought back samples of the pomegranates and figs. Parkend admin, can you put the NIV and KJV up of verse 23, please, because it's really important. Thank you, NIV and KJV. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol, which means cluster, because of the cluster of grapes the Israelite men cut there. I'll come back to that point in a minute. After exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community what they had seen and showed them the fruit that they had taken from the land. Here's the NIV of verse 23. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with the pomegranates of figs. Okay. Verse 27. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, but it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites all live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Here's verse 23 KJV. And they came unto the brook of Eshcol and cut down from thence a branch with 1 cluster of grapes, and they bare it upon a staff. Good. So, let me just finish the chapter, verse 30. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once to take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go up there. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. And that's what they thought too. So the spies go out. None of them trust the Lord to conquer giants. And if your Lord is a grasshopper, then you will be a grasshopper. And 10 of the spies were grasshoppers. After all the Lord has done for them, they still didn't trust him, apart from 2, Caleb and Hoshea. What is the sign of the evidence? What is the evidence that they had peered into the world to come, the promised land? What was it? It was grapes, sign of judgment, on a staff of wood carried or put between 2 other men. That is the evidence that church had peered into heaven. Amazing. A judgment between 2 other people nailed or hanging on some wood. Yeah, they've seen heaven because the Lamb is the focus there. I love it. Okay, so now more rejection. Numbers chapter 14. Then the whole community began weeping aloud, and they cried all night. Their voices rose in a great chorus of protest against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in Egypt, or even here in the wilderness, they complained. Why is the Lord taking us to this country only to have us die in battle? Our wives and our little ones will be carried off as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? Then they plotted among themselves, let's choose a new leader and go back to Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground before the whole community of Israel. 2 of the men who had explored the land, Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, tore their clothing. They said to all the people of Israel, the land we traveled through and explored is a wonderful land. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It is a rich land, flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people of the land. They are only helpless prey to us. Do you have that vision of Jesus against our giants every day? They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. But the whole community began to talk about stoning Joshua and Caleb. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to all the Israelites at the tabernacle. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? Will they never believe me? After all the miraculous signs I have done among them, I will disown them and destroy them with a plague. Then I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they are. Moses intercedes for the people. Now let's get thinking, who does Moses remind us of here as he stands between the wrath of God and the church? But Moses objected. "What will the Egyptians think when they hear about it?" he asked the Lord. "They know full well the power you displayed in rescuing your people from Egypt. Now, if you destroy them, the Egyptians will send a report to all the inhabitants of this land who have already heard that you live among your people. They know, Lord, that you have appeared to your people face to face and that your pillar of cloud hovers over them. They know that you go before them in the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Now, if you slaughter all these people with a single blow, the nations that have heard of your fame will say, 'The Lord was not able to bring them into the land that he swore to give them, so he killed them in the wilderness.' Please, Lord, prove that your power is as great as you have claimed. For you said, 'The Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion. But he does not excuse the guilty. He lays the sins of the parents upon the children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations. In keeping with your magnificent, unfailing love, please pardon the sins of this people, just as you have forgiven them ever since they left Egypt.' Then the Lord said, 'I will pardon them as you have requested. But as surely as I live, and as surely as the earth is filled with the Lord's glory, not one of these people will ever enter that land. They have all seen my glorious presence and the miraculous signs I performed, both in Egypt and in the wilderness. But again and again they have tested me by refusing to listen to my voice. They will never even see the land I swore to give to their ancestors. None of those who have treated me with contempt will ever see it. But my servant Caleb has a different attitude than the others have. He has remained loyal to me, so I will bring him into the land he explored. His descendants will possess their full share of that land. Now turn around and don't go on toward the land where the Amalekites and Canaanites live. Tomorrow you must set out for the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea." We have there, people, an example of the forgiveness of God, but yet sometimes, even though we are forgiven, there may be earthly consequences to our sins that we have to face up to. For example, if I broke into next door, stole a Land Rover, well, I wouldn't have to break into next door to steal that. Well, I would to get the keys. The Lord may well forgive me if I am genuinely repentant one day, but I would still have to go to prison. The Lord punishes the Israelites. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "How long must I put up with this wicked community and its complaints about me? Yes, I have heard the complaints the Israelites are making against me. Now tell them this: as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very things I heard you say. You will all drop dead in this wilderness because you complained against me. Every one of you who is 20 years old or older and was included in the registration will die. You will not enter and occupy the land I swore to give you. The only exceptions will be Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. You said your children would be carried off as plunder. Well, I will bring them safely into the land, and they will enjoy what you have despised. But as for you, you will drop dead in the wilderness, and your children will be like shepherds wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. In this way, they will pay for your faithlessness until the last of you lies dead in the wilderness. Because your men explored the land for 40 days, you must wander in the wilderness for 40 years, a year. for each day, suffering the consequences of your sins. Then you will discover what it is like to have me for an enemy. Petit bois, the Lord hears our prayers and our praises. Yeah. 35. I, the Lord, have spoken. I will certainly do these things to every member of the community who has conspired against me. They will be destroyed here in the wilderness, and here they will die. The 10 men Moses had sent to explore the land, the ones who incited rebellion against the Lord with their bad report, were struck dead with a plague before the Lord. Of the 12 who had explored the land, only Joshua and Caleb remained alive. When Moses reported the Lord's words to all the Israelites, the people were filled with grief. Then they got up early the next morning and went to the top of the range of the hills. Let's go, they said. We realize that we have sinned, but now we are ready to enter the land the Lord has promised us. But Moses said, why are you now disobeying the Lord's orders to return to the wilderness? It won't work. Do not go up into the land now. You will only be crushed by your enemies because the Lord is not with you. When you face the Amalekites and Canaanites in battle, you will be slaughtered. The Lord will abandon you because you have abandoned the Lord. But the people defiantly pushed ahead towards the hill country, even though neither Moses nor the Ark of the Lord's covenant left the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in those hills came down and attacked them and chased them as far back as Hormah. Is my screen flashing different colors, or am I just losing it? Numbers chapter 15. Yes, I'm losing it. Laws concerning offerings. Then the Lord told Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you finally settle in the land I am giving you, you will offer special gifts as a pleasing aroma. Your face alternates yellow and red. Wow, it's some sort of Old Testament iconic moment. These gifts may take the form of a burnt offering, a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, a voluntary offering, or an offering at any of your annual festivals, and they may be taken from your herds of cattle or your flocks of sheep and goats. When you present these offerings, you must also give the Lord a grain offering of 2 quarts of choice flour mixed with 1 quart of olive oil. For each lamb offered as a burnt offering or a special sacrifice, you must also present 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. So, it's the shirt. The camera can't stand it. It's amazing the Israelites complained so much when they had the Lord there with them, isn't it? Yeah. And, happens today in our churches too, doesn't it? Hence, we're reading this stuff to learn a better way. It probably is the shirt. Now, the grain offering, always in the Bible, is symbol as the very best produce of the land. Just give that to the Lord. Complete dedication. We've got the offerings video on YouTube if you want to check it later. A wine offering, I'm poured out like wine. Total dedication to the Lord, even if it hurts me. Verse 6. If the sacrifice is a ram, Give a grain offering of 4 quarts of choice flour mixed with 1/3 of a gallon of olive oil, and give 1/3 of a gallon of wine as a liquid offering. This will be a pleasing aroma to the Lord. When you present a young bull as a burnt offering, or as a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a peace offering to the Lord, you must also give a grain offering of 6 quarts of choice flour mixed with 2 quarts of olive oil, and give 2 quarts of wine as a liquid offering. This will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Each sacrifice of a bull, ram, lamb, or young goat should be prepared in this way. Follow these instructions with each offering you present. All of you native-born Israelites must follow these instructions when you offer a special gift as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If any foreigners visit you or live among you and want to present a special gift as a pleasing aroma to the Lord, they must follow these same procedures. So, if the church evangelizes and pagans get saved and come to know the living God, they get to join in the ceremonies and festivals too. Church is for everyone. Native-born Israelites and foreigners are equal before the Lord and are subject to the same decrees. This is a permanent law for you, to be observed from generation to generation. The same instructions and regulations will apply both to you and to the foreigners living among you. I don't think there's place in the ancient church for discriminating between people, congregation members, and attendees. Do we? We shouldn't. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you arrive in the land where I am taking you, and you eat the crops that grow there, you must set some aside as a sacred offering to the Lord. Present a cake from the first of the flour you grind, and set it aside as a sacred offering, as you do with the first grain from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to present a sacred offering to the Lord each year from the first of your ground flour. But suppose you unintentionally fail to carry out all of these commands that the Lord has given you through Moses, and suppose your descendants in the future fail to do everything the Lord has commanded through Moses. If the mistake was made unintentionally and the community was unaware of it, the whole community must present a young bull for a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. It must be offered along with its prescribed grain offering and liquid offering, and with 1 male goat for a sin offering." Now, we've seen this translation go a bit wonky here before. Sorry, parking admin, can you please put verse 24 down from the KJV? With it, the priest will purify the whole community of Israel, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. For it was an unintentional sin, and they have corrected it with their offerings to the Lord, the special gift and the sin offering. The whole community of Israel will be forgiven, including the foreigners living among you, for all the people were involved in the sin. If one individual commits an unintentional sin, the guilty person must bring a 1-year-old female goat for a sin offering. The priest will sacrifice it to purify the guilty person before the Lord, and that person will be forgiven. These same instructions apply both to native-born Israelites and to the foreigners living among you. Or verse 27, park-in admin. But those who brazenly violate the Lord's will, whether native-born Israelites or foreigners, have blasphemed the Lord, and they must be cut off from the community. Here's verse 24 in the KJV. Then it shall be, if aught be committed by ignorance, without the knowledge of the congregation, and the congregation shall... All right. Verse sweet Savior. Okay, can you paste verse 27? I don't buy it. Verse 31, since they have treated the Lord's word with the contempt and deliberately disobeyed his command, they must be completely cut off and suffer the punishment for their guilt. The problem with the New Living is it's translating unintentional sins as the sins that we commit. Here's verse 27. And if any soul sin through ignorance, then he it shall be the first goat. This unintentional sin is best rendered in versions not as something that we commit without knowing. Whoops. That's sort of unintentional, but, and we've gone through this before, like in Romans 7 with Paul, when we commit a sin, but we hate it, and it's like we fell into it rather than dived into it head first and reveled in it. You know, the sins that we commit as Christians and we just hate them, though that is the better rendition of the unintentional sin here. And it's contrasted to those who are brazenly violating the Lord's will and are like, I will sin to my dying breath because I love it. I mean, it's not the mark of a Christian, is it? So, and Hebrews even talks about those that make a mockery of the sacrifice of the Lord. Of course, there's no forgiveness of sins for them anymore. Verse 32. One day, while the people of Israel, and here's an example. One day, while the people of Israel were in the wilderness, they discovered a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day. The people who found him doing this took him before Moses, Aaron, and the rest of the community. Now, with the previous verses in mind, this guy is brazenly violating, sinning with a high fist to the Lord out of hatred. The people found him doing this, took him before Moses, Aaron, and the rest of the community. They held him in custody because they did not know what to do with him. Then the Lord said to Moses, the man must be put to death. The whole community must stone him outside the camp. So the whole community took the man outside the camp and stoned him to death, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. If you reject the Lord's rest, and even his picture that he's put of his rest in our week, with a high hand, there's nowhere to go but death. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Throughout the generations to come, you must make tassels for the hems of your clothing and attach them with a blue cord. When you see the tassels, you will remember and obey the command of the Lord instead of following your own desires and defiling yourselves as you are prone to do. The tassels will help you remember that you must obey all my commands and be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that I might be your God. I am the Lord your God. Blue. Remember the Lord's commands so we don't go whoring after other gods. And we start to remember again, he's our Father in heaven. That's why sapphire courts are the heavens. Law leads us to the Lord. All right, now take a break there for 30 seconds because now we've got Korah's rebellion. Okay, Park End admin, please go to Psalm 88 and copy and paste verses 4 to 7. No, copy it, but don't paste it yet. Psalm 88, 4 to 7. Korah's rebellion. Remember, you cannot approach the living God without a middleman priest to connect you. He's too holy. One day, Korah, son of Izhar, a descendant of Kohath, son of Levi, conspired with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth. Psalm 88, verse 4 to 7, please. From the tribe of Reuben. They incited a rebellion against Moses along with 250 other leaders of the community, all prominent members of the assembly. They united against Moses and Aaron and said, you have gone too far. The whole community of Israel has been set apart by the Lord, and he is with all of us. What right do you have to act as though you are greater than the rest of the Lord's people? If Aaron is the high priest acting as Jesus, and these guys are now trying to connect to the living God without the mediator, watch what happens. When Moses heard what they were saying, he fell face down to the ground. Then he said to Korah and his followers, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show us who belongs to him and who is holy. The Lord will allow only those whom he selects to enter his own presence. Korah, you and your followers must prepare your incense burners." That's a symbol of prayer. You just approach me praying as you want, willy-nilly, without Aaron. "Light fires in them tomorrow and burn incense before the Lord. Then we will see whom the Lord chooses as his Holy One. You Levites are the ones who have gone too far." Then Moses spoke again to Korah. "Now you listen, you Levites. Does it seem insignificant to you that the God of Israel has chosen you from among all the community of Israel to be near him so you can serve in the Lord's tabernacle and stand before the people to minister to them? Korah, he has already given this special ministry to you and your fellow Levites. Are you now demanding the priesthood as well? The Lord is the one you and your followers are really revolting against. For who is Aaron that you are complaining about him? Because he's just acting as Jesus. Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and they replied, "We refuse to come before you. Isn't it enough that you brought us out of the land of Egypt, a land flowing with milk and honey, to kill us here in this wilderness, and that you now treat us like your subjects? What's more, you haven't brought us into another land flowing with milk and honey. You haven't given us a new homeland with fields and vineyards. Are you trying to fool these men? We will not come." Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept their grain offerings. I have not taken so much as a donkey from them, and I have never hurt a single one of them." And Moses said to Korah, "You and all your followers must come here tomorrow and present yourselves before the Lord. Aaron will also be here. You and each of your 250 followers must prepare an incense burner and put incense on it, so you can all present them before the Lord. Aaron will also bring his incense burner." Let's just see who can connect to the living God. If we're in a state of sin, let's just see who can swan up to the presence of sinless holiness. So each of these men prepared an incense burner, lit the fire, and placed incense on it. Then they all stood at the entrance of the tabernacle with Moses and Aaron. Meanwhile, Korah had stirred up the entire community against Moses and Aaron, and they all gathered at the tabernacle entrance. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to the whole community, and the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Get away from all these people, so that I may instantly destroy them." I think that KJV says something like "stand back." But Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground. "Oh God," they pleaded, "you are the God who gives breath to all creatures. Must you be angry with all the people when only one man sins?" And the Lord said to Moses, "Then tell all the people to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." So Moses got up and rushed over to the tents of Dathan, Abiram, followed by the elders of Israel. "Quick," he told the people, "get away from the tents of these wicked men and don't touch anything that belongs to them. If you do, you will be destroyed for their sins." So all the people stood back from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Then Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrances of their tents together with their wives, children, and little ones. And Moses said, "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things that I have done, for I have not done them on my own. If these men die a natural death, or if nothing unusual happens, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them and all their belongings, and they go down alive into the grave, then you will know that these men have shown contempt for the Lord." He had hardly finished speaking the words when the ground suddenly split open beneath them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed the men, along with their households and all their followers who were standing with them and everything they owned. So they went down alive into the grave, along with all their belongings. The earth closed over them, and they all vanished from among the people of Israel. All the people around them fled when they heard their screams. "The earth will swallow us too," they cried. Then fire blazed forth from the Lord and burned up 250 men who were offering incense. Can you enter the presence of the living God without a middleman? And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, to pull all the incense burners from the fire, for they are holy. Also tell them to scatter the burning coals. Take the incense burners of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives and hammer the metal into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. Since these burners were used in the Lord's presence, they have become holy. Let them serve as a warning to the people of Israel." So Eleazar the priest collected 250 bronze incense burners that had been used by the men who died in the fire, and the bronze was hammered into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. This would warn the Israelites that no unauthorized person, no one who was not a descendant of Aaron, should ever enter the Lord's presence to burn incense, not even to pray. That's what the incense was. Did you pray today at your dinner table in the name of Jesus to the Father above? Look how powerful that is and what it takes Jesus for us to be able to do that. If anyone did, the same thing would happen to him as happened to Korah and his followers. So the Lord's instructions to Moses were carried out. All right. Oh, and what happened to the little ones? How come they were involved? What did they do wrong? Well, to be honest, a lot of children can join in rebellion and hatred against the Lord. All right. So I don't know the ages, but they may well have been outright priest haters as well. But if the Parkend admin just pastes Psalm 88, I won't do this often, like do cross-referencing stuff, but this is such an interesting passage, Numbers 16. Okay, just paste it, Parkend, church admin. The pressure's on now that it's Psalm 88, 4-7. Verse 4 of Psalm 88, "I am as good as dead, like a strong man with no strength left. They have left me among the dead, and I lie like a corpse in the grave. I am forgotten, cut off from your care. You have thrown me into the lowest pit, into the darkest depths. Your anger weighs me down with wave after wave. You have engulfed me." There is a psalm about experiencing the grave, but coming out through it. Because in that psalm, the Lord hears the cry of the person in the grave and rescues them. And Psalm 88 was written by Parkend admin. You got it. The sons of Korah. It is like depression. It is like hell on earth. But in it, the Lord rescues people. We have a Lord who, even if we are in the slough of despond, he can still hear our prayer. And Psalm 88 was written by the very children of Korah who were swallowed up and then must have been spat back out. And then they told their story in Psalm 88. They literally rejected their father Korah at the very last moments, and the Lord heard them and rescued them. Verse 41. But the very next morning, the whole community of Israel began muttering again against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the Lord's people." For the choir director, a psalm of the descendants of Korah, a song to be sung to the tune of the suffering of affliction, a psalm of Haman the Israelite. So, better translation is the sons of Korah. You have killed the Lord's people. As the community gathered to protest again against Moses and Aaron, they turned toward the tabernacle and saw that the cloud had covered it and the glorious presence of the Lord appeared. Moses and Aaron came and stood in front of the tabernacle. And the Lord said to Moses, "Get away from all of these people so I can instantly destroy them." But Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground. And Moses said to Aaron, "Quick, take an incense burner and place burning coals on it from the altar. Lay incense on it and carry it out among the people to purify them and make them right with the Lord. The Lord's anger is blazing against them. The plague has already begun." Aaron did as Moses told him and ran out among the people. The plague had already begun to strike down the people, but Aaron burned the incense and purified the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. But the 14,700 people who died in the plague, in addition to those who had died in the affair involving Korah. Then, because the plague had stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tabernacle. Korah wiped out. Next day, more rebellion. So again, a plague is sent. So people can again remember, to live, you have to hide behind the priest, the middleman, the Lord Jesus. And all those that stood behind Aaron, who stood between the dead and the wrath, they lived. What are you learning about Jesus in these chapters? It's quite astonishing stuff, I think. Now we've just got another chapter about the glories of the high priest. And I'll lay it out with a question at the start. What is spiritual life? What is it to have spiritual life? Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the people of Israel to bring you 12 wooden staffs, one from each leader of Israel's ancestral tribes." Ancestral, not ancestral. Tribes. "And inscribe each leader's name on his staff. Inscribe Aaron's name on the staff of the tribe of Levi, for there must be one staff for each leader of the ancestral tribe. Place these staffs in the tabernacle in front of the ark containing the tablets of the covenant where I meet with you. Buds will sprout on the staff belonging to the man that I choose, and I will finally put an end to the people's murmuring and complaining against you." So Moses gave the instructions to the people of Israel, and each of the 12 tribal leaders, including Aaron, brought Moses a staff. Moses placed the staff in the Lord's presence in the tabernacle of the covenant. When he went into the tabernacle of the covenant the next day, he found that Aaron's staff, representing the tribe of Levi, had sprouted, budded, blossomed, and produced ripe almonds. When Moses brought all the staffs out of the Lord's presence, he showed them to the people. Each man claimed his own staff, and the Lord said to Moses, "Place Aaron's staff permanently before the Ark of the Covenant to serve as a warning to the rebels. This should put an end to their complaints against me and prevent any further deaths." So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. Then the people of Israel said to Moses, "Look, we are doomed. We are dead. We are ruined. Everyone who even comes close to the tabernacle of the Lord dies. Are we all doomed to die?" What is the sign of spiritual life? The priest's possessions blossom and bud. Obviously, that stick of wood is alive. It's blossoming and budding. And isn't it interesting the amount of times that Jesus compares is like flowers, like humans blossoming and budding? The more spiritual we get, the more alive and human we get. Enjoying, becoming creative, dedicated to church life. It's like, which stick is the high priest? Oh, it's the one which has got almonds coming off it. Makes sense to me. Obviously, that's got life. Sue Roberts, you lost me like in terms of connection or metaphor or illustrative losings or what? Oh, I'm buffering. I'm buffering for some reason. That's a shame because that's when oh no. Oh no. Well, maybe tomorrow then, because it's 2 minutes to go now anyway. We'll start with Numbers 17 because I can't be buffering on that. Isn't it interesting how Jesus compares it to blank? Great. Right. Sue Roberts, did you hear me at least read number 17? Did we get that far? If you did, all I need to do is do a little rant to close it off. Okay. So what is the sign of spiritual life in the Bible? The high priest's objects is blossoming with blooms and verse 12. Then the people of it, oh yeah, they're just moaning again in verse 12. But the point of this is, what is spiritual life? It's to blossom, to come alive. Aaron's stick starts producing fruit. And in Exodus, we saw when the Spirit comes on people, they start creating stuff for church life and helping people and serving the Lord with gifts. And the more spiritual we become in the image of Jesus, the more human we become. And a tragedy is the more religious people come, the less human they become. But the Lord keeps showing us, Jesus keeps teaching, when the Spirit moves, it's like trees moving or plants blossoming or winds blowing. There's movement. There's life when God's Spirit is at work, as illustrated here by that blossoming twig. May we have life tomorrow in Jesus' name, even if that life is just getting through a deeply dark day in the slough of despond, just trusting in him in it, like the sons of Korah. Or Or maybe we'll get super creative doing good works for people in the name of Jesus. Who knows? This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. See you tomorrow at 9. If you know people that struggle with the books of Moses, Numbers, and Leviticus, or Deuteronomy, which is coming up next, invite them on. Send the link to this post. We're here every night. I try and make it as accessible as possible. Invite your friends along. Yay, Malcolm. This is 1954 to 1955 retro Spurs kit, which almost caused the camera to break halfway through tonight's reading. Ciao for now.